Elvis Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, known for catapulting Elvis from a small-town singer to an international superstar, actually comes with a lot of sinister history. And his mysterious past starts with his name, because his name isn't even Colonel Tom Parker. As Elvis was thrust into stardom, scrutiny started to cast on the man bringing him to such heights of fame. And all of this suspicion led to the discovery that Colonel Tom Parker was actually a Dutch man named Andreas Cornelius van Kuijk. And Andreas didn't exactly have a clean history. In fact, he illegally immigrated to the US at the age of 20, and some say even jumped ship. Literally. He literally jumped ship off of a boat that he was working on and ended up in the US. Though he was adamant he came to America simply to pursue the American dream and a career in show business, sinister question marks started to pop up, including why he never had a passport. This led to the discovery that Colonel Tom Parker could have been a person of interest in a murder case in Breda in the Netherlands, where he's from. And the story goes like this. In 1929, a 23-year-old newlywed named Anna was found beaten to death in the back of a grocery store. But not just any grocery store, because this was the grocery store where Andreas Cornelius recently found work as a grocery store delivery man. A little eerie, especially considering that directly after this is when he found himself in America. Now, there were no eyewitnesses and no physical evidence to corroborate him being involved. However, whoever committed this murder did pour a lot of pepper over the body, hoping that this would disguise the scent and lead police dogs away from the killer. This will definitely make me very wary if I ever meet a man who has a lot of pepper in his pantry. So back to the passport issue. Since the US and the Netherlands have an active extradition treaty, meaning that if you commit a crime and you try to flee to the US, you will be sent back and you will go to jail if convicted. This could be the reason why Colonel Parker never wanted a passport. But again, nothing has ever been proven in this case. However, the circumstances do seem a bit eerie, especially because controversy followed the colonel in America. After arriving, he served in the U.S. Army honorably for a little bit. However, he went AWOL in Florida and was then charged with desertion. This led him to be sent to solitary confinement, where he apparently became psychotic and eventually found himself in a mental asylum. Very hard to believe that this is the man who went on to produce the King of Rock and Roll, but this is the story. After he was discharged from the mental hospital, he eventually found work that was better suited for him as a carny and as a music promoter. This is what eventually led him to Elvis in 1955. By 1956, only 1 year later, he had a deal with Elvis for complete exclusivity over his career. But this wasn't such a bad thing, because he managed to catapult Elvis's career to unprecedented heights of fame, even orchestrating deals that had never been seen before at the time, like $1 million Hollywood contracts. And of course, his iconic performance on The Ed Sullivan Show. However, despite all of this success, his imprint on Elvis wasn't always A+. Some critics accused the colonel of limiting Elvis's creative potential, influencing him against international tours that Elvis wanted to do and would have made him a lot of money. And worse yet, draining the King of Rock and Roll dry, mentally, physically, and financially. And here's how. It is rumored that Elvis and Colonel Tom Parker's working relationship cost Elvis 50% of his total earnings, meaning that everything that Elvis made, the colonel took a 50% cut, which was way higher than anything ever heard of in the industry at that time. Not to mention that the colonel struck a deal with RCA Records to take 25% of all of Elvis's record sales. Now, you would think with all of this money coming in that both Elvis and the colonel would find some time to, I don't know, go on a beach and sip a margarita, do something for themselves, but that is not what happened. Instead, the opposite happened, and Elvis worked himself into the ground until he eventually died at age 42. But after he died, more of the colonel's shady behavior continued to follow. You would think that as a friend and manager of so many years, he would immediately go to Memphis to be with Elvis's family, who he had grown close with. However, that is not what happened. Instead, the Colonel flew straight to New York City to discuss with RCA Records the merchandising demand that would likely occur due to the King of Rock and Roll's passing. Only after this did he actually go to Elvis's funeral, where he was rumored to be acting really weird, wore a Hawaiian shirt, smoked a cigar, which apparently was very normal for him, but also didn't leave the funeral before getting exclusive rights over Elvis's career in death from his father, Vernon Presley. So was this because the Colonel genuinely wanted to extend Elvis's legacy, or was it for more dark reasons? I think the answer is in his insane gambling addiction. Over the course of Colonel Parker's life, he had become a degenerate gambler, owing the Las Vegas Hilton $30 million at the peak of his gambling addiction, which is valued at $144 million in today's money. Insane. So even with his earnings of gaining 50% of all of Elvis's money, this was not enough for him to pay back all of his debts, explaining why he needed to get rights to Elvis's career after his passing. And even so, Colonel Tom Parker died with only $1 million net worth, which makes no sense considering that he had earned over $100 million over the course of his life. Kind of a wild story, these just being the bullet points. Curious what everyone thinks, definitely feel free to leave it in the comments. As for Elvis, my heart goes out to him and his family that he is no longer with us today. It is absolutely tragic.